Hello, welcome to yesterday's Airlines. Christmas rapidly approaches and there have been more release announcements, which means I've got to kind of cram some extra videos in before the Christmas break. However, I almost don't need to because none of the announcements are particularly exciting, and we're going to look through this video the NG Models December announcements, which have been slightly later than usual due to internal issues, but they almost needn't have bothered, I feel. And I'll go through and explain why that is as we do the video. However, I have to say that NG Models have been a bit disappointing this year, haven't they? Sometimes more than a bit disappointing. Now, I'm well known as being a big supporter of NG Models. I work with them a lot. A lot of people think I just, say everything they do is great and apologise for them and everything. And that's not really true, I don't think. But in this case, it's difficult to really defend their 2023 from a release announcement perspective, because even though they've announced a lot of models, and I don't have any problem with that, more models the merrier in my universe, I do have a problem with announcing such a boring set of models so often. So this month, for example, there are well over 30 models in this set, and yet, what have we got? Same old stuff. A lot of it, literally exactly the same old stuff. Some of it is a little different, but a lot of it is literally exactly the same. And that's a real disappointment. Have to use the word, it's a disappointment. And I just am kind of tired of seeing the same aircraft airline combinations and the same molds being used so often when they barely touch a lot of their more interesting molds in terms of the TriStar 757, 747 SP, and so on and so forth. And I think this time last year almost made some personal wish lists for each of those molds with my top 10. So there's like 50 or 60 models if you look through A320s, 73Gs, and so on and so forth. And I think out of all of them, they've made one, the Qantas 747 SP. And to be honest, they didn't do a great job on that one either because they got the colour too dark. So it's just a lot of really ordinary releases here. They're becoming way too like Gemini. They're like Gemini and JC kind of combined. They announce a lot of similar models like jcwings do, but they're all the same stuff like Gemini does. And that's, really disappointing. I hope to see better from them in the new year. And I have mentioned this to them when I've spoken. So yeah, it's not a great. And this set, even though there's like 38 models or so in it, when you look through the list, yeah, there's always going to be some great stuff. And the models are all finished really nicely, usually. But come on, NG. Come on. Seriously. 737s, A320s, A330s, the same airlines. It's just, why? Why do that to us, okay? If you're going to release 38 models, at least try and make them a little more interesting. Okay, anyway, that's enough of me moaning. I do have some more interesting things to say in this video, trust me. And actually this month, NG are trying to be a bit more innovative with a couple of aspects of the releases, though arguably, again, innovative in a way which I don't really appreciate. So, Anyway, if that hasn't put you off the video, let's see what I've got to say about these releases. There is some good stuff here, and like every month, at 38 models, you're going to find stuff that you're interested in. But it can be a bit of a search sometimes now. Okay, anyway, before I get on to moaning about these releases a bit more, check out my other channels. Check me out on Instagram, check me out on Facebook, check out the website yesterdaysairlines.com, and obviously chuck a like on the video and subscribe to the channel here as well, please. I appreciate the support. Thank you very much. There's loads of cool stuff coming up at the site as always, and I will be doing my top 15 models of the year in the next week or two, so stay tuned for that. But first, we've got to get through some of these release announcement videos, and let's get on and see what NG are dumping on the market this month. Okay, so usually I go through these releases by manufacturer, starting with Airbus, go through the Boeings. I'm not going to do that this month. I'm just going to go through in the order of the part numbers, actually. And so it's a little bit more random, though. It does mean that you're sticking with the aircraft types together, just not in a strictly Airbus, Boeing kind of way. So we're going to start off with some A321s and then moving into the A320s. And we start off with you know, a great example of what I mean about this month's releases. It's an Air Transat A321. The reg is CGEZO. It's wearing these Kids Club colours. Looks awfully familiar, and that's because NG have already released this exact same livery. I mean, they made all 3 Air Transat A321s before, one of which was wearing this scheme. They made JEZJ. Quite why they need to release another version of it, God only knows. I mean, this was released this year, the previous version as well, so it's not like it was even a long time ago. It just seems to be maybe a rebadging. I don't know. I don't understand it. And usually I don't give gas guzzlers to NG models in these videos because the molds are so good that they don't really ever, they're never really bad. But I'm tired this month. I'm going to start gas guzzling models that I just don't think have any merit in being released. And this one certainly is right up there. So this one's going straight in gas guzzler. Next up, we got a pair of Hong Kong Express or HK Express A321 Neos. Here in the new HK Express livery. It's not a particularly exciting livery. I much prefer the Hong Kong Skyline scheme they had before. But at the same time, it does kind of fit in my criteria. And it's only been made by Phoenix previously, and obviously their effort is nowhere near as good. Quite why they've announced 2 of them, KKA and KKB. Usual reasons, I guess, splitting the production run across, but I don't know why anyone would want to buy 2. Unless you're really collecting or making a diorama of jet black cock. So, nah. Don't need 2 of them, but I probably will get one of them. And so I'm going to put one of these up into High Flyer. The scheme is not that exciting. I can't supersonic this livery. And I'll put the other one into Workhorse. That's the 321s, so now we're into 320s. And another airline which NG's been having like this loving with recently is Avianca and A320s. They've made so many of these bloody things. I think they've made, these will be the 7th and 8th of them this year. It's like how many people were crying out for Avianca A320 period, let alone 8. The first one up is N281AV. I think it's just wearing a standard scheme, exactly the same as I think they released last month, which was N745AV. So why do we need this one? Yeah, we don't. And the next one is N724AV. This one at least is different. It's got this gracias. Stupid Spanish stupid Spanish impression alert. But anyway, it's got these gracias titles on it. It does make it different, even if it doesn't make it greatly more interesting. So, what are you going to do? I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to put one of them into gas guzzler, the one that's been made already. Yeah, then I'm going to put the other one into Workhorse because it's not that interesting, and we really don't need 8 Avianca A320s NG. You just don't need them. Next up, though, is another HK Express A320. Hopefully, they're not going to keep on making loads of these. This is, again, in the new scheme. It's registered BHSL. Nobody else has announced or made this, so this one actually is unique. But again, I can't supersonic this scheme. I probably will get this one too, but I'll put this one up into High Flyer. So that's the Airbus narrow bodies for the month. We now slip to something which should be more interesting, but as in keeping with a lot of this year, even when they use their good molds, they don't use them particularly well. And we've got another Saudi TriStar, because we didn't just have one of those. This one is HZ-AHJ. Previously it was AHI. The scheme is exactly the same, except this time around it's got the grey belly, which was on Saudi TriStars in the late 80s, early 90s, whereas the previous one had natural metal belly. Be interesting to see whether they fix the position of the titles on the number 2 engine. Not enough for me to go and buy it though, because it's effectively the same as the one I've already got. In fact, I've already got 2 Saudi TriStars. So, yeah, it's Workhorse. It's Workhorse. Even a TriStar is hitting Workhorse. That's how boring this their releases are. Okay, anyway, skipping on, because there's only one TriStar, because God forbid you release more than one TriStar a month. Next up, we have a Sichuan Airlines A350. It's B32AG. I've talked about this recently in the videos for AV400 because it has been announced by them too. It's in the latest version of the Panda colours. Looks good, looks nice, though they all look kind of the same. Yeah, a model that I probably will get, and I'll put this one into High Flyer. But that is the only A350 as well this month. And again, now we move off into non-Airbus, non-Boeing territory, which should again be more interesting, but isn't. I've got a couple of TU214s. Guess what they are? It's yet more Russian state air transport, though I think one of them may be technically the KGB's air Tu-214. They're not called the KGB anymore, though, are they? But regardless, they are deathly tedious. I can't even bother to tell you what the Regis are. Trust me, the one that's the KGB one, or it's FSB as it is nowadays, that's been made before by Panda. The other one hasn't, but it's effectively the same as ones they've made before. Boring as. Jesus. It's like no airline ever operated the Tu-204 because all NG want to do, and Panda I might add, is pump out these Russian state transport company versions. We've now got 10 of the bloody things. Arguably, could have done without any of them. But no, we've got 10. Bravo. Gas guzzler. Pair of them. Okay, so now finally, we got another Airbus narrowbody, which, sorry, I forgot I said there were no more, but there is actually one more. And this one is, without a shadow of doubt, the most interesting model we've come across so far to date. It is an A318, so the sort of model that no one else is going to be making anytime soon. Cool livery, Frontier Airlines. It's got the cougar on the tail, or mountain lion, or puma, whatever you like to call them. The reg is N807FR, so this is a really cool little aircraft, actually, and you've got to say this is the best model of this release set so far. I believe the tail is called Charlie the Cougar. Cool, anyway, it looks really nice. I think this one will be great, and this is technically in, and I shudder to say it, what NG consider to be classic series, their new Let Classic Be Classic. Now it appears that NG don't know what classic means in the Western language, and this is a translation of what a Chinese person would use the term to represent, which is more like standout scheme, as opposed to what we would consider to be classic. I mean, certainly an A318 being classic, no. And indeed, the other Let Classic Be Classic schemes this month are also not classic by Western standards. And I point this out to them as well, but they probably won't pay any attention to me. I hope that these Let Classic Be Classic schemes next year are all going to be post-2000. But regardless, this is a really nice model and well worthy of being a supersonic model. And the first one this month. But that blip is relatively short-lived because the next release is a Tu-154, and it is a re-release. Again, we only get one a month because we're naughty children. We can't have more than one Tu-154 a month. And the one we get is exactly the same as the one they released a few months ago. Fabulous. So it's Balkan Holidays, LZHMW. Got the first release, really nice. Who needs a second one? No one. It's not exactly a well-known airline. Pointless. Gas guzzler. Okay, so now we're into 737s. And we're going to start with some Series 800s. First one up is Korean Air, HL8240. And what did surprise me about this one is that nobody else has ever made a Korean Air 737-800 with winglets in the scale. So that makes this one a lot more interesting than it probably would be otherwise. There has been one without winglets by AV400, the old AV400. And there's one by Phoenix with Sky Team colours, but never one in standard scheme. So this is actually a new livery aircraft combo for the scale. That's got to get it into high flyer, surely. Doesn't excite me, but surely there's quite a few Korean collectors that would like this one. So high flyer that one. And then next up, we're in Canada for some Swoop Series 800s. We've got 3 of them. Do you need to know the regs? I'll tell you what they are. GDMP, FYBK, FLSF. They've all got different names. So what? I hear you cry, and I agree. NG have already made CGDMP. They made it not long ago. They made it in, 2020, so a few years ago. But now they've decided to re-release it and add a couple of extras. They've all got exactly the same scheme, as far as I'm aware, just different aircraft names. Yeah, what can I say? This is, again, largely pointless. I'm going to slip the one they made before into Gas Guzzler, and I'll put the other 2 in the workhorse, but there's nothing exciting going on there. And again, Swoop, it's not exactly a massive airline that you really need to collect 3-4 aircraft for. No. Now, a much bigger airline is the next Series 800. It's Yemen Airlines, but again, it's a scheme they've made before. B5633 is the reg. It's in the SkyTeam colours. They made it this year. I got it when it was B5302, and it was a nice release. But do I need another one? No, I do not. Probably could have done with one of the earlier schemes, to be honest. That would have been better. But instead we get another one of these. So again, this is another gas guzzler. Okay, a couple more 738s. And now the next two are Nok Air from Thailand. I really don't like the airline, and I've talked about this beforehand. I hate the scheme, the bird face and the dreadful tail. And these ones have, rather ironically, got fish colours with a bird superimposed on them because they're like a clownfish. Both aircraft, same scheme, HSDBJ, HSDBH. Yeah, they've been made before by Phoenix, and there are a lot of these dreadful Nok Air schemes. A lot of them. I really hope we don't see more of these floating around. I can know what we're going to, but I really don't want to. But at the same time, at least it's something slightly different. So one of these can get off into high flyer and pretend I never did it. And the other one's going workhorse. Not very interesting. And our last 738 gets back to the States, get a bit more mainstream perhaps for Western collectors, and that is Delta Airlines. Reg is N374DA. I'd be casting some shade on this model, except that it is unique because it does have the split scimitar or winglets, whereas the previous model they made just had the blended winglets, and nobody else has made a split scimitar version of a Delta 738. So in that regard, they're going to get a little bit of a buy, and I'll put this one up into high flyer. Okay, so that is 20 models through this list, and there isn't a lot to shout about so far. Nice A318, couple of decent 737s, and passable A321 here and there, but otherwise there's a lot of rubbish, a lot of re-release, a lot of pointless models that I don't think anyone really cares about, and that's disappointing. But let's see how we get on with the second half of the release set. So now we're moving into some A330 territory, and this group of A330s has kind of good, the bad, and the ugly in it, in a sense. It starts off promisingly enough. We've got a pair of Royal Canadian Air Force CC330 Huskies. One is in the more airline-y type scheme for the government of Canada, and the other one is in the more Air Force-y scheme, the low-vis colours. Neither have technically been made before in the scale, though jcwings has announced the low-vis version. So both of these should be nice additions for your military collector. Can't really fault them too much. Slot them both up into high flyer, I think. Next up, we've got another pair of A330s from the same airline, and it's Air China B6075, B6076. They're both wearing these really nice pavilion schemes. One's called Forbidden Pavilion, one's called Capital Pavilion. It's a really nice scheme, both kind of similar, different colours. And they haven't been released for a while, these. They have been made before, obviously. Phoenix has made them twice, actually, but not for quite some time, and once on a very, very old mould. And Dragon has made them as well at the same time, and that was, a long time ago. We're talking 2009, so that's a long time ago. So there's merit in having these released. Now, the new thing that comes with these is they're part of what NG is calling its ultimate collection, which basically means that you're going to get a bigger, more impressive box, and the models are going to come with a stand as well, a metal stand, I believe. And they probably will cost a little bit more. Now, I can see what NG are going for here. I can, and I don't hate it, but at the same time, I'm not buying a box. I'm buying a model aeroplane, and once it's out of the box gets stored. So, don't really need the boxes to be any nicer than the already really nice boxes that NG produce. And I don't review boxes when I review models because it's a box. So, even though I understand what they're trying to do here, I just don't need it. I want both these models. Do I want to pay more for them because they got a nicer box? Not really. They're just unnecessary, I would say. So I'm not a big fan of this whole idea of the Ultimate Collection. Yeah. And again, these were two models that NG considered to be classics as well, though they're dating from, obviously 2000s. So what can you do? Having said that, I probably will get both of these, and they will be really nice, and I'm going to high fly them both, but I'm not sure about this whole Ultimate Collection thing. Now, those A330s so far have actually been pretty decent, but the next up we've got a pair of re-release A330s, and again you've got two the same month, 9K APC, 9K APD, they're both exactly the same. Kuwait Airways A330-200s, and that wouldn't be so bad if they hadn't already released a pair of Kuwait Airways A330-200s, one of which were exactly the same scheme as these, the other one had something slightly different about it. But now, who wants these? Who needs more Kuwait Airways A330s in the old scheme, incidentally? This isn't their current scheme. Yeah, no, these are both going to go straight into gas guzzler as well. I mean, don't know why they exist. Don't know why NG is making those. And we finish off the A330s with another pair, China Southern this time round, Series 200s, B6531 with the CFMs and B6059 with the rollers. And you got to say that these could also be damned really with faint praise. But actually, when I look through, of the 13 other China Southern A330s made, only I think only 4 or 5 have been made in the standard schemes. A couple of them are really old, as a very, very old Gemini release. Then you've got Phoenix and Aero Classics, they're both quite nice, and I've got the Aero Classics one, and there's another Phoenix release. In fact, there's 2 more Phoenix releases. So there haven't been a huge number. That does make this a bit more interesting. You've got both engine variations, and again, when you look at the old releases, it's mostly CFMs. Yeah, I'm not stunned by these, but I am tempted. I'm not sure this will be so good that I need to replace my Aero Classics version, but I am tempted to do so. I think I'll put one of these up into High Flyer and I'll put the other one into Workhorse. Okay, that's out of the A330s. So next up, we've got a single 777 this month, only one, probably just as well. And it's not a very good one. It's all Nippon. It's wearing the EVJet Pokemon scheme. It's been announced by literally everyone else. Phoenix have announced it, Aviation 400, jcwings. The Phoenix one is actually out as well. So this is a 4th version. Yeah, it's Pokemon. Don't care. Don't care. Not interested. I'm going to Workhorse it. Okay, what have we got left? We've got a few 737s and a couple of 747-8s. And things aren't still particularly exciting here. And it's stunning that you look at this video so far, there's only been one supersonic model, which is unheard of for an NG release set. Will there be any more? Let's see. There certainly won't be with the next couple of models because they're People's Liberation Army Air Force 737-700s, B4025, B4026. They're not unique. Panda's made them. I've got one of them. Doesn't need to be replaced. These models don't need to be produced. You don't need to make 2 in the same month. They're just pointless. And yeah, Workhorse or gas guzzler? No, it doesn't really matter, does it? Okay. Now the next 737 is actually a bit more interesting. This one doesn't fit at all in my criteria, so from an interest perspective it doesn't catch me, but I can imagine it will catch other people. It's United States Marine Corps. It's a C-40A Clipper technically, though it's a 73G really. The reg is 170041. The scheme is very muted and low vis. It's from the VMR-1 Roadrunners Squadron. And yeah, this one will be good. And if you're interested in military civil airliners, then this one will be right up your alley, just like those RCAF CC-330 Huskies. So yeah, I think this one's a decent choice. I'll put this one in the High Flyer. And now we're into a 747-8. They haven't been using the mould that much recently, or certainly not for real aircraft anyway, but now hopefully we'll start seeing some actual 747-8s as opposed to fictional ones. We've got the Air Atlas last 747 produced, which is an inevitable release, I guess. N863 GT, the Apex Logistics titles on it. This has just been announced by Gemini at the same time, but clearly the NG one's going to be better. Phoenix have also made this as well, I may add, but again, the NG one's going to be better. So, and it's better because NG produce better models in general, but also because the molds is better. So, this one I think deserves some supersonic love, and I'll put it up there into supersonic. Again, it's not a model I'm going to buy, but it's got value. I can see why they're making this. I can see the people who want this one. I think it would be nice. And similarly, the next model is similar kind of vein. It's the first usage of NG's new Max 7 mould. It's Southwest Airlines. The reg is N7203 uniform. And I looked this up, and actually the aircraft does exist. I was a little surprised. I didn't think it would, but I've seen a picture of it. The aircraft is sitting at Renton. It does exist. It must be one of the prototypes. So, good stuff. And it's kind of inevitable we're going to see a few of these from NG, I would have thought. And yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. No one else has got the mould. It is a unique place to go. I'm sure this will be a super popular release. So good stuff. And again, supersonic in this one, no problem. Two more 737s, and these two are both Max 8s. And we're back in Canada. We're back with Canadian low-cost airline, but it's not Swoop this time, it is Lynx. We've got CGLYX and CGUUL. GLYX has this slightly different scheme. It's got these paw prints on one side of the aircraft. Yeah, I mean, Lynx is a really nothing airline for me, and the scheme is rubbish. If you're going to call your airline Lynx Air, at least put a bloody Lynx on it, is what I would say. But I can see that Canadians might see things differently and be more interested in this pair. They haven't been made before. Though HYGL has announced some Lynx, so they will be effectively using the same because they're using the NG mould. So, decent, not exciting, but decent, I guess, this pair. Okay, cool. Now that's all of the models on the screen, but I forgot to put in one, and that is another 747, so I apologise for that. I'll just talk about it now. It's DABYT. It's the Lufthansa retro scheme. Obviously, this aircraft has been made previously, but again, has it been made this well before? And that's the question you got to ask yourself. Now, obviously, the 747-8i mould from Gemini is better. So the Gemini version, probably decent, though the pictures I've seen, the nose looks a bit weird. It's been made by Phoenix too. So, yeah, it's a question of whether you think it's better enough to replace or whether you missed out the first time round. Not overly exciting for me, but then again, there will be few 747-8s that are. But this is a decent enough model to put up into high flyer, I think. Not as exciting as perhaps the last 747 Atlas Air example, but still a decent model. But yeah, I accidentally missed that one off the chart here, so oops. Anyway, ultimately, that's this month's release set. Gone through those pretty quick, but then again, a lot of dross in there, really. Hard to be overly enthusiastic about the way NG's been going this year in terms of release sets. Big release sets, often not a lot to talk about. Imagine if this... I'm not saying that it should be releasing 38 new models every month that are completely fresh, but you got to be doing a bit better than this, I think, NG. And the mold usage is poor, the airline uses here are poor, and you really could just not make a good chunk of these models, and I shouldn't think anyone would blink twice or notice, because no one's really crying out for some of them. So that's disappointing, because there's so much potential with the TriStars and T154s, SPs. I'm sick of saying it. I'm sick of saying the same thing over and over, but there is. And NG just aren't seeing it, or they're not doing it. I don't really understand what's going on there. I can only hope that they let classic be classic, concept in 2024 is going to actually see a more diverse set of models being produced and not just the same old stuff, because a lot of these months I'm just glad to get through and glad these have been made so they can't make them again. But it doesn't seem necessarily to stop them. They are making some of these again, even though they were rubbish the first time around. So disappointing from where I'm standing as a collector, and NG have not been living up to the potential this year, in my opinion. So a little disappointing. Anyway, that's my personal view. Interested to hear, as always, what people think. No doubt you'll find some models of interest here, but yeah, a lot of what I'm calling gas guzzler. There will be lovely models, but they're just models that have been made before. Anyway, guys, I'm not sure whether I'm going to get the Gemini release set video out, but hopefully I can do that one this week too. But otherwise, I'll see you on that vid, hopefully before Christmas. If I don't, then Merry Christmas to everyone here, and I'll see you just after Christmas. But I'll see if I can slip in the Geminis. Let's see if I can. Okay, till next time, guys. Bye-bye.